So don't forget, this year is the first time we're going to have 5 county commissioners instead of 3. And District 1, currently held by Patrick Kelly, is not up for election this year. And we've already heard on the forums from Karen Wiley, who is currently our commissioner for District number 3. And we've heard from incumbents, Shannon Reed and Lisa Larson, who are both now running for the County Commission District number 2. And tonight we will hear from candidates in District number 4, that's Mike and Jean, and then Erica and Nick in District 5. So District 4 for County Commission covers Eudora and the surrounding areas, and District 5 covers Baldwin City and those surrounding areas. We thought we might want to go over that just because it is a brand new district and these are new elections. And then one more special thing about these county commission seats for Districts 4 and 5, they are only 2-year terms the very first time out. And then after that, they will be on a 4-year cycle elected along with County Commission District number 1. And so it makes it a little bit different, harder to remember when we do new things. So we'll keep talking about it and making sure the public knows what's going on. Let's see, up next, thank you, Holden, for being our timekeeper this evening, and thank you for joining us, Daniel. I'm going to introduce Daniel, who will be our forum moderator this evening. Daniel Bennett Smith grew up here in Lawrence in Douglas County, although he recently just joined the Douglas County Democrats as our new vice chair. He has been active and engaged in politics for quite a while. He graduated from the University of Kansas with a degree in design and works at the Lawrence Douglas County Public Health as a communications officer. He also serves as chair at the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission and secretary for the board of the Sexual Trauma and Abuse Care Center. Daniel, thank you for all of your community leadership. Daniel and his partner live downtown in a pretty cool little apartment with their small dog named Stuart. We understand Stuart might become vocal at some point this evening, and we'll forgive that.
Yeah,
thank you, Daniel.
Great. Thank you for introducing me, Melinda. I don't know if you introduced yourself, but Melinda Levon, chair of the Douglas County Democrats. Thank you for all that introduction. And thank you everyone for joining us. Obviously, the folks who are participating, as well as folks who are viewing, and also I guess folks who are viewing this, in the future on YouTube, the night before they go to vote. There are a couple other forums on the YouTube channel. You can check those out as well. So we have quite a lot of people for this evening. I'm going to start things off by introducing Representative Barbara Ballard for House District 44. Barbara has been a part of local Democratic leadership for a long time. And we would like to thank her for always making time for the community. So Representative Ballard, I have a couple of questions here for you to start things off. The first one, if you could just speak for a couple of minutes. You've run for office a number of times. So could you take a couple of minutes and give any advice to first or second time candidates who are running for office this time around?
And Daniel, we need to unmute. Oh, there we go.
Are we unmuted?
Yeah, you sound great.
All righty. Well, thank you very much, Daniel. I am Barbara Ballard, as he said, and I represent the 44th District. And did you ask your question? I was in the middle of arranging.
Oh, you're totally fine. I can ask you again. You've run for office. You are not up against any competition this time around, but you've run for office before. So I was wondering if you just take a couple minutes and potentially give some advice to folks who are running for their first or second time in this primary election.
All right. Thank you. Well, it is only advice. I just want them to know that everybody runs their own campaign and have to feel comfortable with it. But I did give it a little thought, and I would have advice for first termers first. I would say basically, whatever your message is, repeat it over and over and over again. because we know the message, but often other people don't know what our message is. And so in the process of repeating it, that gives people a better idea of who you are. I would say knock on as many doors as you possibly can. I know the heat is out there and everything, but you know, when I have an opponent, I go in the heat, I go in the rain, I go anywhere to let people know I am willing to work on their behalf and do what I have to do in the process. The other thing I think we need to do is find a community leader or several that can endorse you. It's like a reference. It's an outside source speaking on your behalf to verify a lot of the things that you say. And I think that's extremely important, whether you put it in your direct mail or if you put it in the newspaper, if you choose to run those ads as well. For second termers, you've been through it once before. If not, you might have been appointed through your precinct committee as well. But I would say, and I'm going to read this because I'm trying to stay on time. Think about the successes we enjoyed in the House this year. The things we were really afraid of, and it happened that maybe it didn't pass through. But I would like our first termers to just think for a minute. Think in terms of the success we enjoyed with the tax bill. That's something that was unusual. Not only did we pass it unanimously once, but we passed it twice. And when I checked with my friends from the National Conference of State Legislatures, they couldn't ever remember a time that their chamber unanimously passed a tax bill. And we did it twice. That was bipartisanship. Think about that and smile. And just maybe we can repeat that again over and over again. It's difficult, but if it happened once, it can happen again. And of course, they would do the same thing, repeating their message over and over again. But I think of the successes and don't get caught down in terms of this didn't work, that didn't work, because then you're discouraged. But think in terms of what worked and what were we doing when that happened.
All right. Great, Barbara. Thank you for sharing that wisdom. You kind of ended on a note there talking about, getting stuff done. And that actually kind of segues us well into the next and final question that I have for you. In the 90s, the Kansas legislature had a more equal mix of Republicans and Democrats.
Yes.
So what do you think are great things which become possible in Kansas when we restore balance to representation and elect more Democrats to potentially see some more of those great accomplishments happen?
Well, thank you, because I ended on that to get to this point because I knew that question was coming. Well, when I was first elected, the legislature was more moderate. Also, I was elected, we had 59 Democrats. So I'm used to having a lot. And of course, 2 years later, we lost 15, and we've been climbing all the way through. We went down as low as 28, and we're at 40. So we are building, and of course, we would like to increase that number. Because it was moderate, it was easier for us to do it. But what are some of the great things we could do if we had more moderates and if we had more Democrats? Okay. Part of that, number one, Medicaid expansion would be the very first thing I would talk about, because we keep trying every which way we can to do it. We would have more Medicaid expansion, which means approximately 150,000 would be eligible to have insurance. The other thing, I believe K through 12 would continue to be well funded, that the teachers would have their due process, which they took away, and that would be extremely important. And I would also look at it in terms of, I believe people would be less discriminated against. They could be who they want to be, not who other people want them to be. And I think that would be extremely important. And I think we would enjoy more bipartisan successes as far as our bills are concerned, which then would make us go back to what it felt like to pass that tax bill. And we celebrated and cheered and felt good about it. We don't always have to feel good about what we do, but we need to have the opportunity to provide better services for people in Kansas. And that's an opportunity that we have. We can make a tremendous difference. We have the opportunity to serve 2.9 million people. in whatever way. And the thing we need to keep in mind is that we have Governor Kelly. And that is something that a lot of states do not have a Democratic governor, so we can get help. And I would just close because my time must be ending. Please, people, turn out to vote and know that we appreciate the efforts of our Douglas County Democrats to help us get our job done.
Great. Thank you so much, Representative Ballard. Once again, you've given me an excellent segue. I can tell you've done this before. That's kind of why we had you go first. But talking about getting, making sure people get out to vote, encouraging people to participate in the process. We are actually fortunate to have another member of local Democrat leadership here tonight. We have Jamie Shew, who is the county clerk. And I'm gonna see if he's ready and willing to turn his camera on, because I have a few questions. Jamie is also not running in a competitive race at the moment, but we thought we could ask a few questions and see if he could tell us more about sort of who he is and what he does. So I have a couple questions here for you, Jamie. The first one, just a single minute, if you could just tell us more about you as a person and when you were first elected to your current position.
Well, thanks for having me here. I was first elected in 2005. I still kind of feel like a new person in this position, but it's been a minute. I like to tell people I was the first Democrat elected to be county clerk since 1912 in Douglas County. So it had been a minute since we'd had a Democrat in the office. And of course, we run the office in a nonpartisan way, but I'm very proud to be a Democrat as county clerk. I was vice chair of the party when I ran. To haven't been as involved, partially because I have 3 very active kids. I'm married to Dawn, who is amazing, works at the KU School of Nursing, but also I've got 2 graduates of LHS and 1 kid in LHS right now. So if I'm not working, I'm often at a kids event. And to share something personal about myself that a lot of people don't know, one of the ways that I deal with stress is I quilt.
Interesting. You quilt.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that with us, and also obviously for making time when you do have such a hectic schedule. I only have a couple other questions here for you. This next one, we'll give you a little more timeline, just about 3 minutes. Not everybody necessarily knows, what happens at the elections office. I had the good fortune to come and take a tour recently. But would you tell us more about your office duties and the services that you provide to Douglas County residents?
Well, I think I'll start out with technically elections is probably about half of my job. There's more to my job than elections. So in Kansas, the top 4 counties have an election commissioner and a county clerk. We are the largest county where the county clerk still is also the elections officer. So I'll talk about the other side before we kind of talk about elections, because a lot of people don't know it, but accounts payable, payroll, basically any part where finances are leaving the county runs through our office. I have tax ownership, so all the ownership lists, that includes specials. We do cereal malt beverage licenses. We also have a lot of just the county clerk has mentioned, I think, over 90 times in all of these random places, like licensing pawn shops and stuff like that. So we're also the document management area of the county. So that's, people always say, what do you do when you're not doing elections? It's getting caught up on the rest of my job. The part that everybody knows is elections. And so as the county election officer, I'm responsible for anything to do with elections in the county, whether it's city, school, all the way up to the upcoming presidential election. As many people hopefully know, we have split our office. So all of my general government offices are still at the courthouse, but we have moved to 711 West 23rd Street, which is where all of the elections functions operate out of now. I love the courthouse. It's a great place, but It's a lot easier to get into our new space. It's over by Westlake. And as was mentioned, we will start voting tomorrow morning.
All right, great. Thanks for sharing some insight there. I have one last question for you. We're only going to give you a minute on this one, but I think it's pretty short and sweet. What are you most proud of in this work, and what do you really get excited to work on?
Well, I think on the non-election side, I'm really proud of a lot of the efficiencies we created in the courthouse, especially in paying bills and that type of stuff. That doesn't sound very exciting, but we have created quite a few efficiencies. But the election side is my proudest side. I mean, when I ran, I knew there would be challenges in elections, but I couldn't have imagined what those challenges would be like, especially over the past few years. And to have the privilege to serve the citizens of this county by every day seeing how we can remove barriers, that we can improve access to voting, and constantly just be fighting to make sure the citizens of Douglas County have access to the ballot and can cast a secure ballot and know that our office is doing everything we can for them, regardless of what laws are being passed, what laws are being discussed. But also a huge thing that I pride ourselves in is like going above and beyond to make sure that everybody's ballot gets counted and it gets counted correctly. So a lot of the stuff that we've done with elections, I'm really proud of the access that we've provided over the past few years.
That's great. Well, thanks again for taking the time to join us this evening. If people want to see your quilting, is that something that is on display anywhere, or?
No. I'm just now kind of coming out about the quilting, but
Okay, well,
no,
let us know if there ever is an opportunity. I'm curious.
it's not that good, but it is what kind of provides me a little bit of peace. So
Sure, yeah, we all need that. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking
really
the time.
quick. DouglasCountyElections.com has all the answers that you need on where to vote. You can go see your sample ballot. It is kind of your go-to place to answer anything you need to know about the upcoming election.
Great. Yeah, that's not on my agenda, but I think that's worth shouting out. So thank you for being here. Feel free to stick around. We are going to pivot to talking with some folks who are currently running in a primary. So up next on our agenda, we're moving on to the county commission. Melinda did a great job of sort of touching on some of the things that have sort of changed, going from 3 to 5 commissioners and all of that. And so first up, we're going to go to District 4, where we have Mike Kelso and Jean Dorsey running. We're going to go ahead and I have a few different questions, and we're going to go ahead and speak with Mike first. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for hosting this event. It's
Yeah.
a great way to share our thoughts and our views.
Great, thanks. Thanks for being here. Got a few questions. This first one, if you just take a minute, just please introduce yourself to the audience. And as part of your introduction, please share what experience, education, and expertise helped prepare you for the work and role of county commissioner that you're running for.
All right, my name is Mike Kelso, and I'm running for the 4th District, one of the 2 new districts here in Douglas County. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering from Kansas State in 1986. Following that, I worked for 5+ years in the nuclear weapons complex in Kansas City as a process engineer. And during that time, kind of fell in love with the world of IT, and I've been in the world of IT ever since for the last 32 years, and 20 of those years being in IT management. For background that lends itself well to this position, I served 3 elected terms on the Eudora School Board, and as part of that was lucky to serve 10 years on the special ed co-op for Eudora, Wellsville, and Baldwin, the East Central Kansas Cooperative for Education. And of those 10 years, 8 years were served as either vice president or president. I followed that up with a 6-year term on the Douglas County Fair Board as the Eudora Township rep. And the Fair Board it's a lot more work than people really think it is. And I enjoyed that. And I'm still very, very active in the fair. And Jamie Shew, you can show your quilts at the fair. And currently, After my term on the Fair Board ended, I am on the County Planning Commission. I've been there for the last 18 months. And I just believe that this wide and varied set of experiences that I bring serve and lend itself well as a county commissioner, particularly of the fact that, as you can see in my background, I am a rural person and we need rural representation on the county commission.
All right, great. Got a couple more questions for you. Thanks for the introduction. Next, if you take a couple minutes here and identify 3 critical issues facing Douglas County that you believe need to be addressed.
It would be real easy, and it is easy to say that one of the big issues facing all of us is the amount of taxes that we pay. In every one of the public forums that I've been a part of, I can't think of a single candidate that hasn't pledged to do what we can to get our taxes lowered. I'm pleased to see that the current county commissioners appear to be doing that. I don't think they're doing it enough, and it's going to be a long and arduous task. And one bad thing about that is whoever is elected, we're going to inherit the budget that they're passing right now. We won't really be able to bring much action to budget cuts until this time next year when the 2025 budget season, or the 2026 budget season starts. Second, affordable housing. We all know our values of our houses have skyrocketed lately, and it's extremely difficult for particularly first-time new homeowners to even break in to the homeownership game. We need to figure out affordable housing, whether that's big A or little a, whether it's subsidized or not subsidized. And we need to figure out what that means, because what we have right now is not working. And thirdly, and in my mind, this is the most important, our county commissioners and any elected official or anybody that sits on any appointed body, we need to do a better job of listening. We need to actively listen when the citizens of Douglas County, whether they're in your district or not, when they want to talk to you, whether that's via a phone call, a chat in a store, an email, or public comment at a meeting, we need to listen, because we never, ever can forget we work for them. They elected us, and we owe it to them to listen to their needs and the concerns.
All right, great. Thank you for answering that. I've got a few more here for you. This next one, if you just take just about a minute here and let us know in what ways your leadership will support the Democratic Party platform.
In time spent reading over the current Democratic Party platform, in my mind, so many of the different planks of that platform center around how we treat people. And we need to treat people with equality and respect, and everything else comes after that. And I'll leave it at that. It's going to be a very quick answer, but we need to treat everybody respectfully and equally in all that we do.
Yeah, nothing wrong with a quick answer. I haven't had to cut anybody off yet so far. We've got 2 more questions. This first one, if you could take a minute or less, and please tell us more specifically about your district and its needs.
Well, District 4, and it's not going to be District 4, it'll be the rest of the county too, but it's going to hit District 4 first. There's change coming from the east. We all know about Panasonic and all of the different things that Panasonic brings. So there's 4,000 people that are going to work there. There's going to be other businesses that potentially have another 4,000 employees in it. The Panasonic plant works well. They've already bought or have rights to buy more land to double the size of the plant. So there'll be 8,000 people there. We as a county need to work with the cities, in this case Eudora and Eastern Lawrence, into preparing, if we so desire, and I think we should, to attract some of those feeder businesses to locate and operate in Douglas County. We can build businesses quicker than we can build neighborhoods. And once the businesses are there, then we start attracting the people that work there. Because even though Panasonic's saying that this first group of 4,000 people, most of them probably already live in the Kansas City area and they're just going to commute. But as somebody that commuted 50 miles each way for 20 years, it gets old after a while. So somebody that maybe lives in Blue Springs or at least Summit in Missouri is going to say, hey, the area around DeSoto and Eudora, why don't we go look there? And so we need to get ready.
All right, great. Thank you. I have one more question here. And if you could answer this in about a minute, What motivates or drives you to public service, and why are you asking for our vote?
I've been on a 2-decade journey that will continue the rest of my life to give back to the people of Douglas County. I was so beneficial during a horrendous health scare 20 years ago that I realistically know that I should have died from a horrendous form of cancer that I had. And so many people did so many wonderful things for myself and my family, whether bringing us food, coming out and doing work on our farm, fixing fence, or the roof on our house that I didn't have the strength to do. And when I survived, I committed the rest of my life in an attempt to try and give back a portion of what I received. I know I'll never be able to give back as much as I got, but I'm going to keep trying. And to quote the late Kurt Von Achen of Eudora, a friend of mine, we all have a civic rent that we need to pay. That's why I'm running. I'm running, truly running for the good of the citizens of Douglas County, not for myself. I am running because I know that I can do some good. Thank you.
Great, and thank you, Mike. We are now going to pivot, and we're going to talk with Jean Dorsey, who is also in District 4, who is running against Mike in this primary. So, Jean, these questions might sound a little bit familiar, but I'm going to start off by asking you just in about a minute to please introduce yourself to our audience. And as part of your introduction, please share what experiences, education, and expertise helped prepare you for the work and role of County Commissioner.
Sure, glad to be here. My name is Jean Dorsey. I'm a retired financial controller with about 35 years of experience in corporate auditing, budgeting, and financial analysis and cost control. I'm currently Secretary Treasurer of the Burt Nash Community Mental Health Center, and I've been on the governing board for 6 years as the city county appointee to that board. I became interested in mental health after one of my twins was diagnosed as bipolar schizoaffective disorder at the age of 25. After my wife passed in 2015, my son Todd moved in with me, and for the last 2 years of his life, I was pretty much his caregiver. He died in his sleep at home on November 29th, 2022. So I have some lived experience in dealing with the mentally ill as well as financial experience. Oh, and my bachelor's degree from KU was in advertising.
All right, great. Thank you for that introduction. Thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself. I, of course, have a few more questions. The first one here, if in just a couple minutes, if you could please identify 3 critical issues facing Douglas County that you think need to be addressed.
Sure. I'm going to pick, there's more than 3, but I'll pick 3. Property taxes, spending money wisely at the county, and infrastructure planning. For the most part, my area in Eastern Lawrence and Eudora, there are some low income areas where the rise in property taxes is affecting especially our elderly folks who are living on fixed incomes. So while we try to solve the homeless problem for some, we may be creating it for others. So we need to take care of that by spending money wisely. My often quoted example of that is attorney fees at the county. We have a budget of $550 or $550,000 of budgeted legal expense. We're paying outside attorneys $220 an hour. If they were full-time, that would be a salary of $457,000 a year. If we hired internal counsel, we would probably pay that person about $80 an hour, or $160,000 a year. The head attorney at the city makes $180, so around $160 is in the ballpark. So we need to be wiser in the way we spend our money. Regarding infrastructure planning, I recently met with Shirley Allenbrand to discuss regional issues. She showed me the K-10 plan, and it didn't include Douglas County at all. It stopped at the Douglas County line. So 3 lanes of traffic in each way went to 2 at the county line. We need to join the Mid-American Regional Council and the Total Transportation Policy Committee, which plans roads around Kansas City, and make sure we're included, because as Mike said, those 2 big Panasonic plants are going to affect our transportation needs.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Your audio was breaking up a little bit there. I think it should be fine, but if there's anything that I can't hear, I might ask you to repeat something, but that was great. I have another question coming up here. If in just about a minute, you could let us know in what ways your leadership will support the Democratic Party platform.
Well, there's a few planks on the party that the county is dealing with. Caring for children, families, and senior citizens, reforming our criminal justice system, protecting the environment, leading the way in renewable energy, supporting our agricultural economy, and preserving our quality of life. Those last 4 are sometimes in conflict with each other. The Democratic plank mentions wind energy. There's quite a few people in Douglas County that aren't happy with wind turbines. So we've got to balance between supporting our agricultural economy and our quality of life with renewable energy sources. So I would help lead the way in that for the county.
All right, great. Got 2 more questions. This first one, if in just about a minute, you could please tell us more specifically about your district and its needs.
Sure. The district starts at Iowa between 19th and 23rd, and then basically goes all the way to the border, expanding like a big pie slice. So the average median income in Eudora Township's 110,000, in Lawrence it's 65,000, and I would guess the Eastern Lawrence section drags down part of the average median salary to 65,000. We have a number of issues. One is medical care in Eastern Lawrence. Dr. Bloom runs the East Heights Clinic. It's the 3rd of the size of the Eudora Clinic for 3 times the population. So we need to expand that. Currently in East Lawrence, you're born with a life expectancy of 8 years less than if you're born in West Lawrence. So we need to address that inequity. Both Eudora and Lawrence need more housing. Without housing, we can't fuel our schools with students to keep them prosperous and maintain the reputations they currently have. And as Mike said, the District 4 needs representation and needs to listen to its residents. I've been attending Eudora Township meetings, city commission meetings, one of the Eudora planning meetings, and they're just happy to see someone running for county government pay attention
Great.
to them.
I'm gonna have to cut you off there, but thank you for that background on District 4. I have one last question for you here. And if you could let me know in just about a minute, what motivates or drives you to public service and why you are asking for our vote?
Well, after my son passed away, I needed a new purpose. And since I've been attending county meetings for about 8 years, that was certainly a focus. Trying to get the crisis center, the TRC, open with the county made me believe that the county needed better leadership, and certainly the expansion to 5 commissioners will help. I've been preparing the job for 2 years. I'm the only citizen, let alone candidate, to go to all the budget hearings in the last 2 summers. I attended the Sheriff's Citizens Academy, which makes up 10% of the total county budget. And I've attended many meetings, and I think I come well qualified to step right in and hit the ground running. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. Jean Dorsey, District 4. Up next, we have at least one more county commission candidate who I will be speaking with. For District 5, Erica Anderson is joining us. And once again, these questions might sound a little bit familiar, but thank you for being here, Erica. I'm gonna kick things off with if you just take about 1 minute here and please introduce yourself to the audience. And as part of your introduction, please share what experience, education, and expertise helped prepare you for the work and role of County Commissioner.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting us here today and hosting this event. So my background is in public health, and I've been in public health for more than a decade. I am from the unincorporated area of Douglas County. I have lived in Douglas County for more than 40 years. I am married to my husband, Dustin Rothwell. We've been married for more than 20 years. We have 2 kids that we have raised in Baldwin City. Both of our children have gone to Baldwin High School. My daughter has graduated from Baldwin High School. Our son is still in Baldwin High School. As I said, my background is in public health. I have a PhD in public health. I have a master's in public policy. I went on to get my master's in public health and then determined I wanted to go on and finish and get a PhD in public health. My PhD was actually focused on veteran suicides, where I took a look at the mode of the method that a veteran utilized to commit suicide, but also took a look at social isolation and loneliness and mental health funding and the national veteran suicide rate. So taking a look at our needs at the local level and really understanding what those needs are, and then applying best practices, and then ensuring that we co-create interventions from lived experiences and really understanding what those experiences are, and then applying those to the communities and their needs is really why I got into this work and why I really want to serve my community and to continue this work. And this is why I feel that the work that I've done for many years, I was in healthcare for many years, public health for many years, and currently I'm a regulatory consultant in Medicaid, passing Medicaid laws and policies all over the nation. Go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, I'm just gonna have to cut you off there. I think that was a pretty good introduction for folks who are tuning in. I do have a couple more questions I want to get to though. The next one you'll have more time on, just about 2 minutes. If you could please identify 3 critical issues facing Douglas County that you believe need to be addressed.
Absolutely. So as our colleagues have already mentioned, property taxes is something that I've been hearing as I've been going door to door. Fiscal responsibility also, as we take a look at the budget, and as I've been listening to the budget hearings, we need to take a look at our budget and we need better fiscal responsibility. Also strengthening our families. I'm hearing as I go door to door a lot about crime. And so strengthening our families, really understanding why we are having an uptick in crime, why we're having an uptick in violence from youth to youth, and what we can really do to strengthen our families, to strengthen our community, and to build workforce development.
All right, great, thank you. I have a few more questions, of course. So this next question you'll have about a minute on. In what ways will your leadership support the Democratic Party platform?
Absolutely. So as I stated earlier, my background is in public health. And as we seek to build trust, but also as we seek to ensure compliance and really take a look at how we can build up social programs that really support our community and strengthen, to be super important moving forward. We know that as we want to address the needs of our community, looking at taxes and addressing all of their needs, we need to look at infrastructure. And if we are going to lower taxes, we still have to ensure that all of the programs that meet the needs of our community, but also addressing the needs of the voices that we are hearing, we still have to support infrastructure and social programming moving forward. And all of that has to strengthen families, address the environment, but also ensure that our criminal justice system and our infrastructure overall is supporting everyone and ensures equality for all.
Great, thank you for that answer. I have a couple more. This next one, you have about a minute. If you could please tell us more specifically about your district, District 5, and its needs.
Absolutely. So as I've been going door to door, I've been hearing, as I stated earlier, about property taxes. They've been many of my neighbors and those in Lawrence, but also the edge of Wellsville and Edgerton and Eudora have talked to me about rising home costs, about also rising food costs, but also about healthcare costs. So my background, as I stated earlier, is in Medicaid, but also in Medicare. And so as I've been talking to some of our older adults, they're telling me that they're worried about aging in place. They're worried about staying in their homes. Many are worried about transportation costs as well. So we need to think about our infrastructure. We need to ensure that our infrastructure has the correct framework in place so that everyone can age in place, whatever that means for each individual and their own needs. If that means the bus infrastructure, if that means taxi infrastructure, if that means biking infrastructure, what does that mean for each individual? As we look to the east, as many of our colleagues have said in the Panasonic and workforce development, we need to ensure that we have the right skills and capabilities to feed that pipeline and to ensure that we do have the right businesses in place in our county to ensure that we are meeting the needs of all.
Great, thank you so much, Erica. And then there's just one final question here. If you just take about 1 minute and let us know what motivates you or drives you to public service and why you are asking for our vote.
Absolutely. What drives me to public service is the fact that I've been in public service almost my entire life. So I grew up volunteering. I have worked as a junior volunteer at Lawrence Memorial Hospital. I've worked for Harvesters. I have developed interventions with community partners my entire adult life, but also as a youth. And my kids have finally, one has already left the nest and another is about to leave the nest. And so my husband and I have kind of made the decision that it's time for me to kind of step into politics and to kind of take this next step. As I stated, I have my PhD. I recently finished it in the last year. And so I kind of have a little bit more bandwidth, I guess you could say. And I'm someone that loves a challenge. I need to be busy and I need to constantly be active and doing something in my community and giving back. And so I entered the race 2 hours before it closed because I saw an opportunity to give back. And I also saw who was running. And I felt like now is the right time to get into the race and ensure as we move towards November that we will have someone, we will have a leader who can lead District 5 moving forward.
Great, thank you so much for that answer and all the answers that you've given this evening. I think it'll be helpful for people who are checking this out after the fact. Erica Anderson in District 5. Up next, we're going to hear from Nicholas Matthews, who is running against Erica Anderson in District 5, but it looks like he is traveling and not getting signal. And we've struggled a little bit with some connectivity this evening, but it looks like Nicholas will not be able to join us. He is going to go ahead and email in some answers that we can make available, but we will have to. This will conclude our county commission portion. So sorry that Nick couldn't be here, but thank you to Erica in District 5, Jean Dorsey in District 4, and Mike Kelso also in District 4. Thank you for taking the time to provide some answers so that folks in the community can be informed and know which Democrat to vote for. So we do have one other Democratic Party primary, which is coming up, and it is the district attorney for Douglas County, also listed as District 7 on your ballot. So we are going to hear from 3 Democrats who are currently running for district attorney. First of all, we are going to hear from our incumbent, DA Suzanne Valdez. Welcome, Suzanne.
So, Daniel, I am in Boise, Idaho, at the National District Attorneys Conference. There appears to be a fire alarm going off in my hotel. So I am outside. I still have a signal, but I'm wondering if I can go last so I can find and get on another way here.
Yeah, that does seem worth noting.
Yes, so
Yeah, we can. Let me check. Melinda, what do you think? I think that makes sense. So we
you
can.
can hear you can hear the fire
Yeah.
department showing up.
So
So
we will. That sounds fine. Hopefully, you can find a safe place to be.
okay,
We can shift you to the end. So
Absolutely.
great.
I appreciate it.
That means that I guess we'll switch things up. So first, we will be hearing from Tonda Hill. See if Tonda's available. I don't want to catch anybody off guard.
Hello.
All right, Tonda.
Hi.
Thank you for being flexible and switching a little bit. So, as with all of our previous candidates, I have a series of questions. I'll let you know how long they're going to be, and hopefully I don't have to sound like a jerk and cut you off. But our first question, if you could just please introduce yourself to our audience, and as part of your introduction, please share the specific legal work you've done that has prepared you for this role, and you'll have about 2 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you for the Democratic Party for hosting this event. My name is Tonda Hill. It is, to help you kind of remember, my father's name is Tony, so that's the tone sound. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in education from KU, and I also have my law degree from KU. And the reason why I talk about my bachelor's and my master's degree is because of the experience that I received working at an alternative high school at-risk students. I've had the ability to have a different type of profession, and those particular skills are skills that I will bring in this position as a district attorney. I have also worked as a deputy public defender in Shawnee County. During that time, I trained, mentored, hired, fired, did action plans with staff and other senior attorneys. Less experienced attorneys. Currently, I am a prosecutor in Wyandotte County. However, I do live in Lawrence. This is my house. I'm a homeowner that I'm coming to you at. And I do all types of crimes, but I specialize in prosecuting sex crimes. When I started in Wyandotte County about 3 years ago, I have already done 13 trials. And my last trial was last Thursday, where I convicted an individual of rape. I have an 85% trial conviction rate. All of the cases that I've prosecuted regarding sex crimes, I don't plead them to probation, and I also don't plead them to non-registration offenses. I take the prosecution of violent offenses very, very seriously. And so those are the particular skills and experiences that I would bring to this position as a district attorney. I'm a competent, experienced legal professional that has not only criminal law experiences, but experiences outside of the legal field. As I stated, I was a teacher. I also recruited for the University of Kansas School of Law to diversify the student body. And I also worked at Community Living Opportunities here in Lawrence, Kansas. All of those skills and experiences would make me a really great district attorney to serve the people.
Great, thank you for answering that, and again, thank you for being flexible. As we shuffled things around a little bit.
No worries.
A few more questions here. So first, I'm gonna give you about a minute and ask: Will your office prosecute marijuana or paraphernalia offenses? And do you think jail time is appropriate for someone who is convicted solely of drug possession?
I am so grateful for this question. I actually did a answer on the social media to really clarify what I mean about prosecuting marijuana. First off, I do not believe that simple possession should require incarceration. Jail should be reserved for violent offenders, and that isn't prosecuting simple marijuana. I am the only candidate that is a member of Justice Matters, and I worked on the jail no that was successful. So that kind of shows you my beliefs. So prosecuting marijuana doesn't mean I would request prison sentences or felony convictions. I understand how felony convictions have so many collateral consequences where individuals don't have the ability to engage in federal funding. So prosecuting marijuana means that I will use my discretion to either dismiss the case, plead the case to diversion, or an alternative source to really make sure that we're seeing if the individual has an addiction problem. Any candidate that doesn't understand how to use the discretion to prosecute this case, because dismissing a case of possession is the same as prosecuting, doesn't have the integrity or the confidence to be the next district attorney.
Great, thank you for that answer. Next up, we're gonna change course here a little bit. You have about a minute on this one. I'm wondering, what is your position on cash bail, and would you make any attempts to curtail its use in Douglas County courts?
Thank you for that question. So cash bail is really set by our statutes, which kind of outline how bail is assessed. And one of the things that a district attorney can do in their role, although it's being said it's not possible, we do make bail recommendations to the court. And those recommendations should be based upon two factors: whether or not that individual is a danger to society, and whether or not that person is going to be a flight risk, appear at future settings. So it's very concerning when I read the paper that we have individuals who are on probation or have received bonds, and they are incarcerated and come back again for committing similar offenses, and then they're let out again. That individual's bond should be higher because they are a danger to society. They also should be higher because their ability to appear at future hearings will be delayed because they're having these cases start over again. So bail consideration should be very specific. As a district attorney, I will make bond recommendations and making sure I'm looking at those two factors: whether the individual is a flight risk and whether they're a danger to society, and increase bail for violent offenders or for individuals that continue to get out and break the law.
All right, great. Thank you for that answer. I have two more questions for you.
Sure.
This next one again, just have 1 minute. Do you think diversion should require court costs or application fees? And what would you do to make diversion more accessible to those without financial means?
Thank you for that question. Now, court costs will be something that I particularly cannot waive, but however, a fee for applying for diversion, I do not agree with. And also would want to work with the courts. When I was in Shawnee County, a lot of times court costs were waived through community service. And so I don't believe that court costs should be a barrier for individuals having the ability to apply for diversion, court costs or fees. So no, I would not charge an application fee for diversion. And I would try to work with the courts to see if there's alternative means, whether it's community service, to see if the court can waive that due to indigency found, to make sure that individuals have an opportunity to participate in diversions. I've spoken with some of the defense bar here, and another area in the current diversion scheme that has a lot of difficulties is the fact that sometimes people are required to get assessments ahead of time before they can get diversion. I'm not going to require that because, again, having assessments before you can get diversions are extra costs and fees that certain individuals don't have. So I would like to eliminate the barriers of access so that more individuals have the opportunity to apply for diversion and make sure that we don't have those felony convictions on their records, which then has so many unfortunate collateral consequences.
Great, thank you. I have one final question here for you. It's going to be, we're going to give you 2 minutes for this one. So if you serve the next 4 years as our district attorney in Douglas County, what would you like to stand out from that time period as your most lasting legacy or impact?
Thank you. And thank you again for being a moderator and helping me with the timing, making sure I'm on time. But my legacy will be historic because it will demonstrate that hard work and merit can overcome privilege, social relationships, and even character assassination. I will be remembered for my commitment to fairness, ensuring that regardless of a person's background, every individual will be treated fairly and have access to the law. I want to set the standard for future district attorneys to follow, demonstrating that transparency, accountability, even community engagement can create positive, long-lasting changes that also keeps our community safe. And that is why on August the 6th, or tomorrow, that's early voting, I'm asking you again to vote for the most qualified candidate that is backed by Boog, and that has, like Ballard said, gone in the rain, the heat, to ask for your vote because that is important to me, and service will always be my guide, and public service and my commitment to Douglas County will continue to lead the way. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Tonda Hill, one of our 3 Democratic candidates for DA in Douglas County. I'm not sure, hopefully DA Valdez is doing all right with the fire alarm, but we are going to go to Dakota Loomis, who is our next Democratic candidate for DA here in Douglas County. Hello, Dakota, how are you doing? You doing all right?
Doing great, thank you.
I don't hear any fire alarms, so.
Not yet, so we'll see. My kids aren't.
All right, I've got a few questions for you. They will sound familiar. But the first question, if you could just take about 2 minutes here and introduce yourself for the audience. And as part of that introduction, please share the specific legal work you've done that has prepared you for this role as DA.
Thank you. So my name is Dakota Loomis. I'm a lifelong Douglas County resident, was born and raised here by my parents, Bert and Michelle, and I went to Pinckney, Central, and Lawrence High before leaving Lawrence to go to undergraduate at Carleton College in Minnesota, and then NYU for my law degree in New York City. After getting my law degree, I returned to Kansas. I had worked at the Attorney General's office between years when I was at NYU, and I returned to Kansas and started working at the District Attorney's office in Shawnee County. I met my wife there, Crystal. We're now raising our 2 daughters here in Lawrence. We made Lawrence our forever home. And after working at the Shawnee County District Attorney's office, as the deputy chief of staff, I had the opportunity to charge domestic violence cases, work on prosecutions, had staff underneath me. I trained law enforcement on the best practices for charging cases, for investigating domestic violence cases. It gave me a deep appreciation for the work that needs to go into making sure we prosecute and investigate those cases appropriately. After working in the Shawnee County District Attorney's office, I opened up my own law practice here in Douglas County, where I've worked as a criminal litigator for the past 10 years, both as a defense attorney in Douglas County District Court, as well as across the state, and as the Baldwin City prosecutor and city attorney. That experience has let me, I believe, get a wide field of experience on cases from off-grid attempted capital murder, drug offenses, justice law, sex crime cases, and all the way down to Baldwin City, where I prosecute misdemeanors and work with our law enforcement officers to better enforce investigations and prosecute cases fairly and justly. So I have experience working with law enforcement, our local partners. I also have experience working with our local partners through the Douglas County Drug Court, where I've been the defense attorney for that great program for the last 5 years. I've been able to see people turn their lives around, and it's really placed in me the belief that our system needs to have a much greater focus on rehabilitative and restorative justice while reserving prison for the most violent and dangerous offenders. So that's the skills that I would bring to this role, and my experience both as an attorney and as a lifelong Lorenzian.
Great, thank you, Dakota. Got a few more questions. This next one won't be quite as long. You got about a minute on this one. So, will your office prosecute marijuana or paraphernalia offenses? And do you think jail time is ever appropriate for someone who is convicted solely of drug possession?
The simple answer to that is no. This district attorney's office for quite some time has not filed charges against people who are found with less than an ounce of marijuana or simple possession of marijuana. I would have no intention of filing charges against individuals who have misdemeanor paraphernalia for use of drugs. I think our time and our resources are better spent getting those people assistance, getting those people help through community partners, and not putting them into the criminal justice system, which often leads to worse outcomes for them and diverts resources away from the more serious repeat offenders who have harmed individuals, be it physically or financially, that are preying on children, preying on elderly folks. So spending time and resources on a substance that's been legalized around every state around Kansas and that has not been prosecuted for the past, I believe, 6 years, does not make good sense to me. I don't believe it's a good use of our resources. And certainly no one should spend a minute in custody because of an addiction issue for marijuana or frankly for any other drug that they may be possessing. Treatment for those folks should be our top priority, and making sure that our community partners have the resources they need to treat folks who have addiction issues would be my goal as working with them as a district attorney.
Great, thank you. On to our next question here. I have about a minute on this one. What is your position on cash bail? And would you make any attempts to curtail its use in Douglas County courts?
I strongly believe that a person's bank account should not determine or should not be dependent, should not decide whether or not that person spends a night in jail or months in jail. Whether or not a person can afford to pay a bondsman or afford to give money to the court has no bearing on whether or not they're going to return to court, and has no bearing on whether or not they're a violent offender. So I strongly oppose cash bail in its current form. As district attorney, I can only make recommendations to the court. I can only ask the court not impose bond, but there are certain programs that I would strongly support. Issuing summons over arrest warrants for non-violent, non-repeat offenders, putting more resources into pretrial diversion, pretrial programs that allow people to be at their homes, keep their jobs, keep their kids. So electronic monitoring before trial, check-ins and reminders that the people need to come to court. But I do believe that given the current system, there are people who, based upon their danger to the community and based upon their flight risk, should remain in custody until they have their trial. These are few and far between. My office would use non-biased matrices to determine if a person was of such a great risk to the community or such a great risk of flight they should not be granted bond. That would be my approach to cash bond.
All right, great. Thank you. This next question you will again have just 1 minute on. Do you think diversion should require court costs or application fees? And what would you do to make diversion more accessible to those without financial means?
So I certainly do not support any sort of diversion application fee, diversion supervision fee. As the Baldwin City prosecutor, I've removed any diversion fees, either for application or for diversion monitoring. I've also asked the court in Baldwin City to always waive court costs for people who cannot afford those. So currently, the goal in Baldwin City is to make sure that there are no financial barriers to anyone getting a diversion. Additionally, I believe that in cases where a assessment is needed, be it domestic violence assessment, a drug and alcohol assessment, a mental health assessment, that either we should make that part of the diversion and allow people to get those services while they're on diversion, or, and I think this would be the most appropriate approach, make sure that we have the resources needed. If we believe that these folks need mental health services or addiction services, get them then the assessment immediately, work with our community partners to find funding to pay for that, so that there are no financial barriers whatsoever for folks who cannot afford the services that we would ask them to undertake to rehabilitate themselves and to comply with diversion. So again, I would not ever apply a diversion fee, a diversion application fee, and I would work with our community partners to make sure that we could find the resources to get people treatment and assessments done at no cost.
Great. Thank you for that response. This is the last one we've got for you today. It's a little bit longer. You'll have 2 minutes on this one. If you serve the next 4 years as our district attorney in Douglas County, what would you like to stand out from that time period as your most lasting legacy or impact?
If I was blessed to be the district attorney of Douglas County, and I was back here in 4 years talking to this same Douglas County Democrats, my hope would be that the lasting legacy or the improvement we've seen would be in the last 4 years, the Douglas County District Attorney's Office had earned the trust back of our community by treating all the people that the District Attorney's Office interacts with dignity, with respect, with transparency, that anyone who works with us would know that their voice had been heard, that they had been given a fair shake, and that they could trust the District Attorney's Office was a fair arbiter of justice. I also would hope that from a result perspective, that the public would know that we've spent our last 4 years focusing our officers' resources wisely on prosecuting violent offenders and repeat offenders who harm people in our community. I think there's a procedural aspect where everyone's treated with dignity and respect. We have professional prosecutors who can then also go into the courtroom and do their job to make sure that people are held accountable if they do harm others. Conversely, I would hope that the community knows that we've struck the right balance between accountability and rehabilitation, that people who are in the system because of mental health concerns or because of addiction issues, because of the lack of resources, that our office has not taken the stick to those folks, but instead, in conjunction with our community partners, provided them with the resources they need to not come back into the criminal justice system, to get the help that they need. So in essence, the goal of my administration would be to restore trust to the office and trust that everyone will be treated with respect and dignity, and that we will have an office of prosecutors, staff, investigators who will focus our resources wisely on the most serious crimes. We'll have the experience to prosecute those cases strongly, effectively, put people who deserve to be in prison away, while at the same time using our discretion and common sense to get resources and treatment to the people who have no business being in the criminal justice system in the first place, and who would be better off with rehabilitation services rather than punishment or punitive measures. So that would be my hope, that at the end of 4 years, that would be what the community saw from me. That's why I'm asking for you to vote for me on August 6th or any day starting tomorrow in person. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us and answering some of these questions for folks who are here this evening, and also folks in the future who'll be watching this on YouTube. Dakota Loomis, one of our 3 Douglas County Democrats running for DA. We will now move on to our last DA candidate, and also our last speaker for the evening. So this is current incumbent DA Suzanne Valdez. Hopefully you are in a safe place. It looks like there's no fire or smoke in your vicinity. So
thank you for the flexibility. This is the life of a DA. You never know when you're going to have to just be flexible and do what you got to do. So thanks for doing that for me, and I'm ready to go.
Sure. So this first question, you'll have about 2 minutes. If you could please introduce yourself to our audience. And as part of your introduction, please share why you are running for another term as our district attorney.
Well, I've been honored to serve as your DA for 4 years, and I've been very privileged to serve the people of Douglas County, and I want to continue to do so. I ran on a platform in 2020 for change, and I'm making that change. And I am an independent prosecutor. I say that over and over again. I work with the judiciary, I work with the legislative branches of local government, and sometimes those things are not aligned. But the reason I am, in order to do my job, I have to create change. And I've been making that change. I've done everything I've promised to do in 2020, and I want to continue to build on that. So I'm running on my record, and so I would like for you all to go to the DA website, the official DA website, and you can see the transparency that we have of my office and the work of my DA team that seeks justice daily for the community of Douglas County. I want to correct a couple of things that are inaccurate. First of all, there is no back charging, as has been alleged. Our charging is caught up. If there's anything that hasn't been charged, it's because we're waiting for law enforcement reports or some follow-up. The second thing is that we do prosecute or file care and treatment cases, involuntary commitment cases. That's all being done by my office. So to the extent that you've heard that, that's not accurate. I'd like to point out that we also have a call log with our 24-hour communications with our law enforcement. I'm on call all the time, 24/7. So are my assistant district attorneys. I have made change. I've made focus on prosecuting violent crimes like sexual assault, rape, gun violence, fentanyl distribution, and I have created a robust alternatives to incarceration programming, including having 23 graduates since I took office in drug court. So thank you, Dakota, for being a defense attorney. We need you there. Behavioral health court, restorative justice, creating a family justice center. That's why I came to this conference in Idaho, because this is something that DAs across the country are thinking about. So I ask that you allow me to continue to build on the work that I'm doing, create the change. use the criminal justice system for violent offenders, and to use alternatives to incarceration programming with our kiddos, with adults. There's so much work that we can do. I have the grit to do it. I have the tenacity to do it. I have the spirit to do it. And if I have offended people through my work,
Thank you.
I apologize for that.
Thank
Sure.
you so much for that.
I didn't get the warning, so you're gonna
Oh,
need
you
to.
didn't?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll see if maybe Holden, who's doing a great job of throwing those warnings in the chat, I'll see if maybe he can make sure, and maybe you can get added if you're not listed as a panelist. I'll go ahead and I can rudely interrupt you if that's what we need
That's
to do.
okay.
The next question we have, you'll just have 1 minute to answer this one. So, will your office prosecute marijuana or paraphernalia offenses? And do you think jail time is ever appropriate for someone who is convicted solely of drug possession?
So the answer is no. Since 2014, this office has not prosecuted possession. We don't even charge it. So the options of dismissing or doing a diversion or whatever are not even in our world. We just don't charge it, nor do we charge paraphernalia, and that should be continued. And that's something that we've been doing. That goes to prosecutorial discretion. And just to let you all know, jaywalking is still a crime, adultery is still a crime. So if I prosecute every pot smoking adulterer who jaywalks, I'll have all my resources expended that way. And I'm being snarky about it, but that's just the way prosecutorial discretion works. And that's the way I would go forward. I do believe that if someone is going to jail on drug charges, it's for distribution. Anyone else for possession or use needs to be evaluated for addiction. We cannot prosecute our way out of addiction, nor should that person be in jail. We have plenty of resources here in this community that we can help users. I will use our prosecution resources like I have for the last 4 years in prosecuting distributors, including fentanyl, which is deadly and killing a lot of people in our community. So again, the answer is no. It's an emphatic no, and that is the will of the people. There's a survey when I do jury selection in drug cases. Overwhelmingly, I hear from jurors that they do not want this particular crime charged, and that's what I will do and continue to do for the people of Douglas County.
Great, thank you for that answer. I have a couple more for you here. This next one is also just a 1 minute question. So what is your position on cash bail? And and would you make any attempts to curtail its use in Douglas County courts?
Yeah, so cash bail was a big issue in the 2020 election, a major issue, and it still remains a major issue. In fact, what we see and experience is that people of color just don't have the resources overwhelmingly to pay bond or to pay bail. Kansas law does define that at 22-2716, and it's up to the court to determine whether someone is a flight risk or a danger to the community, just like you've heard. But we have here in Douglas County, which I'm super proud of, a robust pretrial release program where we do have house arrest. We do have ways that we can monitor individuals who could be potentially violent and who are a flight risk that don't need to be in jail. And that is because of our population issue with the jail. We all voted as a community not to expand the jail. And so every Monday morning, I know who's in the jail on my charges. And these are people who have charged with rape, with serious violent crime, with gun violence, those kinds of things. So we typically will only reserve our argument for bail or bond if we have someone who is a very violent individual and is a public safety concern. And I am very, very excited and happy that we have our pretrial release program, which is a model for the country, and I talk a lot about. And so it's working.
All right, great. Thank you for that answer. So I have one more 1 minute question for you. Do you think diversion should require court costs and application fees? And what would you do to make diversion more accessible to those without financial means?
So we don't charge any fees for the DA's office for an application fee or any processing fee or not. We've never done that. Any court costs or any lab fees or anything like that, as you've heard from Mr. Loomis, are costs that we can't waive. We certainly have no problem with having those waived if the court wishes to do so. And so we usually stand silent on that. As to assessments, those have to be done. And those are for domestic violence, for lethality, drug, is this a user, is this a distributor, and mental health. Those assessments need to be done. And that is just to make sure that that individual that we're going to give a diversion to is with low risk, right? I do agree that we need to, those costs can be expensive. There are grants actually that that we can use to try to get that paid for the individual. That's something that's been mentioned to me that I'm working on. I just want to let you know that for the last 4 years, at least for the first couple of years, I was working behind a COVID backlog, trying to get our system worked, transition to an electronic system. There's lots of things on my to-do list, and this is one of them because there's grant money for that I would seek.
Great, thank you. So I just have one more question for you here, and I guess this is the final question of our forum. So this next question is simply, if you would serve the next 4 years as our district attorney in Douglas County, what would you want to stand out from that time period as your most lasting legacy or impact?
So that I made sensible criminal justice reform, despite pushback, despite a little bit of discomfort. Our Constitution and laws since American democracy started has been enforced, it includes slavery, it includes racist ideals and discrimination. And over time, through Jim Crow laws, through discrimination against women, all branches of government, the judiciary, the legislative branch, and the prosecution have enforced these laws, and I refuse to do that. I want to make change. We've got to make change so that we are making sensible criminal justice reform. And George Floyd's death in 2020 was really something that instilled the importance of that. So I hope that my legacy will be, I just want to say this, folks, we can't prosecute our way out of addiction. We can't prosecute our way out of mental health issues. We can't prosecute our way out of youth violence. These are crises that are public health concerns, and we've got to figure out a way to do it so that we don't increase the criminal justice footprint. So at the end of the day, whether it's this time or whether it's 4 years from now, I hope that people will look back and say, you know what, she may have been a little ahead of her game. I am ahead of the game, and that is why change is hard for people, but we're doing good work. We're doing great work. And I hope at the end of the day that people will say, she did reduce the criminal justice footprint. She kept people with their families. She did everything she could to help those who needed help. She put only violent offenders in the criminal justice system. She didn't prosecute her way out of issues that need to be dealt with in a community way, and that she created a safe and just environment for Douglas County. So thank you.
Great, thank you. So that actually brings us to the end of our forum, at least the end of our planned questions and answers. So I'd like to thank our last 3 participants, our Douglas County Democrats running for DA, that is incumbent DA Suzanne Valdez. Before that was Dakota Loomis, and then first was Tonda Hill. So thank you all for being here and for answering some questions so the people in the community can get to know you and figure out which Democrat they want to vote for. I'd also just like to thank everybody who spoke before. We had our county commission candidate, Erica Anderson from District 5. Nicholas Matthews was not able to join us. Prior to that, we had District 4. We had our 2 Democrats running for District 4 County Commission. That is Jean Dorsey and Mike Kelso. I'd also like to thank Jamie Shew for joining us and giving us some information about the elections office. I'd like to thank Representative Barbara Ballard, who's incredible, for kicking things off and giving us some inspirational words. And I'd also like to thank Melinda, my good friend who does all this stuff with me, and Holden, who is our intern, who does the hardest job, which is the timing, keeping track of the time diligently. So thank you for everybody who joined, people who asked questions in the chat, and everybody who was here to help voters know who to vote for.
Thanks again to everyone. Early voting starts tomorrow morning, and have a good night. Bye.